A few days ago, as usual, Yoongi woke up early and got ready for the office. Wan and Yoongi went to the office in the same car. Since Wan was his personal assistant, so they mostly worked in the same room during the office hours. Whenever Yoongi went for site inspection, he managed to tag her with him, and at the end of the day, they returned home together in the same car. Not for one day, not for 2 days. The same routine continued for 10 days in a row. Van didn't utter a single word related to what she had faced that night. She even stopped going to his room while he was awake. But in the middle of the night, when Yoongi used to be asleep and Van would need to step out of her room for filling drinking water, she would peek into Yoongi's room to see if he is alright or not. Van considered herself very clever in this situation. She thought Yoongi would not be able to be aware of her actions. But the clever girl was unaware of the fact that every night he could feel her touch when she gently checked the temperature of his body. When her frail figure left his room, in the dimmed light, Yoongi would just watch. The intense affection hidden in Van's action attracted him so stronger that the power of this intense affection was much stronger than the physical attraction a man could have for a woman. Yoongi thought it would be better to wait, and this time his waiting day was certain. Since the last day of the internship was Friday and the next college opening day was Monday, that weekend was the last day of his patience. In the office, she chose to learn every single work a CEO's PA should know. At home, she chose to help him in the kitchen to prepare food as she was aware of the fact that he also used to be exhausted. Van almost stopped talking. Van, who loved to talk, became silent. That made him feel guilty. He kept quiet and gritted his teeth and began to endure everything. Finally, that final Friday came. After work, all the new interns were bid farewell in a small ceremony. Then they drove home together as usual. One didn't utter a word during the whole ride to home. Yoongi opened the door and entered home first. One just silently followed him. It had become an everyday occurrence. But that day, as she was about to step inside the living room after taking off her shoes, Yoongi grabbed her by her waist and made her stand against the door that had just been closed. You said it yourself. One still managed to utter as she was almost choked with the urge of tears in her eyes, but didn't dare to raise her head to make an eye contact. Every day I return home, being totally exhausted, mentally, physically. At the end of the day, isn't it my moral right to be kissed by my wife? Yoongi gently touched his warm lips to Van's, and she just shuddered in a jolt as his gentle sucking activated her each and every nerves. Somehow she managed to grab Yoongi's shirt with some skin off his vest. Love me, the way you cover my body with a bedsheet every night, the way you turn up the AC temperature, the way you check my neck and forehead to see if I have a fever. Fill the glass with water from your bottle. I want that love. Can't you just remove the influence of light and darkness and love me directly, looking into my eyes? His conscious action almost forced her to release dopamine. I never said that your touch made me uncomfortable. Why did you insult me that day? Wen hid her face in his chest, trying her best to hold back her tears. I had fever that day. I couldn't help myself. I was craving for your touch and you. Yoongi admitted. I didn't even want to take medicine that day, but I took as you forced me. You were a patient that day. It's normal for a patient not to want to take medicine. And his stomach rumbled with hunger. What do you want to eat? Suppressing laughter, he managed to ask. I eat everything you make. I have never complained. She just pouted in reply. So, what kind of food do you feel like eating today? He didn't lose his patience at all. Something delicious? Furrowing her eyebrows, she tried to think about what flavor she wanted to taste. I guess I don't want to eat. I want to sleep. After all these office work things, this vacation between vacation and the start of my college, I want to sleep. Yoongi just nodded in agreement. Okay, go to your room and freshen up. I won't force you to have dinner tonight. If I notice that you are still awake after preparing the dinner, I will call you. Otherwise, take rest. The two of them went to their respective rooms. After cooking, when he looked towards Van's room, not only the light was on, but there were also small movements he noticed. Though she said that she was going to sleep, however, she was still awake, and this curious man walked towards the girl's room with food in his hand. The door was still open, however, it was a room where a grown woman was living. So Yoongi was about to go and knock on the door when the girl's voice came out. Come in. It looked like she had just taken a shower. Her hair was wet and curly, reaching down to her waist. She was wearing a white camisole and trousers. Her room was not decorated in a very feminine way. It was a very quiet room with a very little furniture. Actually, I'm hungry, so I came to call you, Yoongi uttered. 2 seconds, just let me complete this. She only took a few seconds to complete what she was doing and uttered, Let's go. So far, everything has been fine for both of them. Sitting on the dining table, hungry Yoongi almost pounced on the food. Wan was also hungry, but as her freshly washed hair was causing trouble, she tied her semi-wet hair into a bun and started eating. Yoongi was eating peacefully until he glanced at her. Her camisole top was soaked in the water from her hair, and as it was white in color, it had become sheer after getting soaked. No, this time Yoongi couldn't take his eyes off. Actually, he didn't. On the other hand, Wan was eating, maintaining her typical pace, because she hadn't been aware of this matter, as no one had ever reacted this way. Why aren't you eating? No question can be asked when it's all about the quality and taste of the food you prepare, Wan said. When you used to stay in the college dormitory, did you stay like this while eating? Yoongi asked her, and without analyzing the whole matter. Yeah? She just casually shrugged her shoulders. And who used to cook the food? He asked bluntly. See. She paused for a moment to chew the food. I did not see because the students were instructed to serve their food their own selves. Yoongi nodded and shifted his attention to the food. As he finished his portion of food, he looked at her face and gradually or instinctively, his gaze shifted. Perhaps because the temperature of the room was controlled, Wan's body was responding and it was clear to the eyes. Pink. He said almost in a whisper because it was the only word that slowly kept turning over and over in his mind, clearly emerging from his mouth. After finishing her portion of food, she just glanced at Yungi completely instinctively, and their gazes fell on each other. When? How did you feel when I. The intensity in his voice was not as strong as the determination he had to ask her about the intimacy they shared about an hour ago. You admitted it yourself that you don't feel uncomfortable when I touch you. I. She was a little taken aback by the sudden question. Naturally, she couldn't find a way to confront him. I will do the dishes first. She quickly went to the kitchen. Even though she tried to clean the kitchen nicely enough, her attention was focused on Yungi's activities, even though at that moment she had to rely only on the sounds coming from the next room. Yungi directly went to Wang's room, but as it was a grown woman's room, he actually hesitated and decided to wait for her to come. He just stood beside the doorframe just to prove his point to her. After finishing her kitchen work, when she entered into her room, she just startled seeing Yungi in her room. What? Do you want something? You. Yungi clearly answered. What? Not understanding what he just said, she asked again. I want you to sleep tight, the way you are used to, in my arms. Yungi uttered. Yeah? She sighed as what Yungi just said was actually genuinely true. My room may not be as comfortable as yours. He looked into Van's eyes, trying to understand how she was trying to make the sleeping arrangements comfortable for him, pushing away all instructive thoughts that came to her mind. Van, he looked at her eyes. You don't need to do anything, and more than that, we both are exhausted. She just nodded. That was all she could do at the moment and lay down on the bed. The internship is over. Why are you still stressed? Yungi asked her after sitting on the bed. I have received a mail from the uni. I mean, I'm not the only one. Every student of my batch received the mail to attend the checkup and awareness campaign. Van immediately hid her face in his chest after saying that. Don't get me wrong, I don't really like communicating. Although it's a negative indicator for my profession, to a large extent, it's preventing me from being professionally skilled. Overcoming all her hesitation, she hugged him. Finally, Yoongi gently tried to place Van's feet on his ones, but Van preferred to slip her feet between his legs and grabbed his waist. Don't you ever dare to speak to me in such tone again. It felt so bad. I cried so much just because you were sick. I had the excuse to forgive you. Otherwise, Otherwise, you could hold me, grabbing my collar, and could ask me for a proper explanation for that behavior. You certainly have that right. He started finger combing her hair, and eventually they fell asleep.